You complete me.
I don't even know who you are.
Essentially, Honkai Star Rail's version of the Suicide Squad that pissed everyone off for getting them all hyped up for nothing. But was it actually for nothing? Absolutely not. Duke Inferno's death was sorta random and just kinda thrown into not even a cutscene, which is a little flashback dialogue. But make no mistake, Honkai Star Rail's not gonna hype up these characters and Ifrit's children for no reason. Now we know who they are, and when they do pop up in the story, and they will, we'll recognize them and we'll know why they're probably popping up. Because they were definitely meant to be a red herring for later. And although the game states that they are split up now, they are still going to target the factions that was stated in the trailer. Originally, we all thought they're going to Penacony and they're going to target a specific individual represented by that path or faction. Akash the Tuner is going to target the Harmony and the family, Katarina the Preservation, Aventurine, the Constance, Black Swan and the Memo Keepers. They actually did have a brief conversation, and Dubra the Scribe was going to target the Masked Fools. But now that Penacony's actually wrapped up, I think that these characters actually represent a rogue version of those factions, and that they're going to be reoccurring. So although there is going to be quite a bit of speculation in this video, I want to describe each one of Ifrit's kids, what faction they probably come from, and how they'll impact the future stories of Honkai Star Rail. And let's start with the most known one, the Constance of Dalia, who actually had some dialogue with Black Swan in 2.1, and orchestrated Boot Hill to talk with Black Swan and actually get to Penacony. And being that at that moment we didn't realize it, but she was actually able to breach Anna's dream, similar to how Black Swan is able to MacGyver through the dream world of Penacony. I think it's a fair assumption to say that the Constance is a cremator, a corrupt and rogue memo keeper. With that fake ending we got in 2.2 and Black Swan was able to explain it to us, the fact that the Constance was able to breach Penacony is a strong connection that she's a cremator. The second being that she's represented with the Black Dahlia, which has the meaning of betrayal and distrust, also going along with how she betrayed the Memo Keepers being a cremator. I don't know how far this would go into being a cremator, but she has demonic-like references as well, with her horns on the side of her head and a devil-like tail. Besides those things just being like a sinister Easter egg, I don't really think her actual appearance tells us anything about cremators specifically, because Memo Keepers and cremators don't actually have a physical form or body and can choose who sees them. Also, her being a corrupt Memo Keeper would explain how she was able to tamper with the music box and the memories that Akron brought to Penacony. And Duke Inferno did say that she was his most exceptional child. That is a subtle detail but cannot be overlooked. Also, all Memo Keepers are said to be emanators of the remembrance of Fully. So by extension, would that make the Constance an emanator of remembrance? Again, you're going to see a reoccurring theme in this video that not only are these characters pitted against that faction, but they represent a rogue aspect of that faction. To go into more detail on a cremator and what it actually is, the Garden of Recollection is where the memories of the universe are sought and kept. In case of the universe's destruction, we'll have those memories. But the cremators are an extreme rogue group of corrupt Memo Keepers who view existence differently. Instead of treasuring all that has taken place like their colleagues, memories have priorities and different qualities. And although Fully wants all memories, they believe that worthless memories are not worth being kept, and they bear the sacred duty of filtering out those memories for the eons. So they ransack and steal stored memories that Memo Keepers have gathered and rank them in order of importance, obviously discarding the ones they feel are unworthy. And they claim this is cleaning out the garbage. But that actually goes against Fully's wishes, as every single memory, no matter how insignificant, holds great importance, and no mortal has the right to judge the value of any piece of memory. The Galaxy Rangers actually hunt down these stolen memories from cremators, which would actually also even link her to Boot Hill and how she was able to summon Boot Hill on the phone to talk with Black Swan. The Constance orchestrated that. But the thing that stands out with Ifrit's children are they're kind of like a double anomaly. because they already represent a rogue or blacklisted faction within that path or eon, but because they align themselves with the Destruction and the Annihilation gang, obviously there's some very unique circumstance to each one of them. Black Swan was an incredible help. Being able to MacGyver through Enna's dream helped us reawaken during the false ending, but we also learned as soon as we stepped foot in Penacony, we were in Enna's dream, right off the hop, because otherwise we would not have been able to see Misha in the lobby. Again, which means the Constants breached Enna's dream nonchalantly to orchestrate Boot Hill's arrival. That cannot be overlooked. Also, while the Astral Express is trying to find a new destination, Black Swan gives us a suggestion of a planet struggling with 3 different eons, Amphorius, but also says nobody really knows about its existence. Even the famous Akavili, the Trailblaze Eon, has not been there. And it honestly doesn't surprise me that Black Swan would want to travel with us. She already stated that the Trailblazers have the most precious of memories because we travel around and do all these things. Her lingering around and wanting us to go to this specific planet or world kinda makes sense. And if Black Swan as a memo keeper is one of the very few individuals that even knows of its existence, then guess what? The Constants might as well. She would be the best candidate out of anyone we know in the game to know about this world's existence as well, and us have a confrontation there. At the very least, Black Swan seems to be tagging along and the Constants was pitted against her. If I was a betting man, I would say that this is the most likely scenario where Black Swan and the Constants have their confrontation, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. Moving on to Dubra the Scribe, who is more than likely a member of the Morning Actors, a group associated with the Eon Aha of Elation, but directly oppose this Eon and everything they stand for. This group legitimately hates the Elation, and have dedicated their entire existence to opposing this Eon. And to no one's surprise, ironically, the Eon Aha actually makes members of the Morning Actors emanators of its path, just out of sheer irony. They hate me so much, well, I'll make some of them emanators, and they can hate themselves for being associated with me on a deeper level. You gotta love this Eon. The Morning Actors advocate for abstinence and penance, and to dilute the temptation of elation. Life is full of ups and downs, and agony makes people mature, but fleeting joy only offers hopeless, unreachable temptation. Cheap entertainment is a narcotic for humans to lose themselves in. All beings should renounce joy and endure grief to temper their spirits. To this end, these people formed a theater trope of sorrow, known as the Morning Actors. And if you actually look at Dubra the Scribe, 2 major aspects of this whole character's design actually represent the Morning Actors. The obvious biblical and religion references to the little doll they control. The Morning Actors are greatly inspired from religion, so that's what the doll represents, but the actual creature controlling the doll, Dubra the Scribe, who sort of looks like a Grim Reaper, also has some Easter eggs that link to the Morning Actors. Because a Grim Reaper represents death and grief. And death and grief are things the Morning Actors embrace, as it makes you more mature, and being able to endure grief tempers and builds your spirit. Even the name Mourning and Morning Actors is the expression of deep sorrow for someone who has died. That is the whole point of this group and their trope. Duke Inferno says, "Let the blood of the performers flow into the abyss." It's funny. Both the Masked Fools and the Morning Actors seem to be just like putting on a show. They're taking grand stage. It's a very interesting situation with these 2 factions. A member of the Astral Express, Dong Hung, actually knows the Morning Actors quite well, as they helped him escape the La Fu at one point. He stated that they record the sorrows of life and compose magnificent tragedies for individuals facing their end. This actually goes right along with their title as well, Dubra the Scribe. A scribe being somebody who copies or documents things. I will at this point be stunned if Dubra the Scribe is not a Morning Actor. To be honest, it wouldn't make any sense. Now, let's talk about the other 2 because they're a little bit harder to pinpoint, but a video I made not that long ago talking about the history of Penacony actually helped me maybe pinpoint Akash the Tuner. He's definitely an interesting one to talk about, and he was the one associated with the family. Now, I think, looking back at it, would he be a rogue family member? That actually kind of makes a lot of sense, and I made a video recently talking about emanators, and with the family is already singled out by Shipe of Harmony. and you gain a really deep connection with this Eon by being able to control the harmonic strings. As a matter of fact, if you actually look up an emanator of harmony, it brings you to the harmonic strings. So essentially, anyone that can command the 4 main harmonic strings will definitely have a deeper connection to harmony than anyone else. And there's 4 main strings. Elenev, the commander of Eternal Centurion. Dominicus, the wisher of Harmonious Choir. That's the one that Sunday actually took control of, where he planted an embryo of order, a new god to be born. Both Robin and Sunday have the ability to become chord masters and tuners. We'll get into that in a second. Constantina, the singer of Panacoustic Theater, and Beatrice, the merrymaker of Blissful Ball. And many people within Honkai Star Rail have stated numerous times that anyone that can control these harmonic strings are nothing short of emanators of Shippei. Also, the entire point of the family in Penacony is everyone comes from different lineages across the universe to form this family. It was ex-prison planet, but the family is made up of a bunch of different cultures, races, lineages. That's the point of harmony. It's a bunch of different people coming together under the banner of a family. That's the whole point of harmony, and why harmony singles out the family above all else. So why is this all important? Well, certain family members are eligible to serve as tuners of the harmonic strings, like we saw Sunday do, and then in turn become chord masters. What I'm obviously saying is that Akash the tuner is probably an ex-family member, and could very well be from one of the great lineages of the family. But to make it even more interesting, the family has 5 great lineages: the Oak family, the Alfalfa family, the Bloodhound family, the Iris family, and the Nightingale family. But there used to be 7 great lineages. There was the Lampmoth family and the Black Plum family. But it's said during the struggle period of the families trying to take control of one another and seize control of Penacony, these 2 lineages were snuffed out. Probably some real red wedding shit going on right here. But wouldn't this be cool if he was an ex-member of the family from one of these 2 lineages that got snuffed out and no longer exist? Maybe he's a descendant of one of these 2 lineages and has the ability to become a tuner and a chord master, and in turn making him possibly an emanator of harmony. This would fit the theme of him being a rogue member of that faction, the family, but like the rest, also associate him with that Eon, because he would still be able to connect to harmony. That to me is the most likely scenario. He could be an ex-family member, like maybe banished from Penacony from one of the current families. If I had to guess, it'd be the Nightingale or the Iris family, just because I feel like the family's a very tight-knit group, and they would be aware if one of their ex-members was a part of the Annihilation gang. It's possible, but I just feel like it would make more sense if one of those 2 family lineages that were snuffed out, possibly murdered behind the scenes, was able to have some of their descendants escape and avoid the slaughter, but maybe they were very renowned and also had the ability to be a chord master. It would make sense. And Shippei of Harmony is an Eon that doesn't discriminate through harmony. So if he is a descendant of a family lineage that no longer exists in Penacony, I don't see why harmony would discriminate against him, which would then make the name Tuner in his name make way more sense, but that is just my guess on it. And finally, we have probably the most difficult one to pinpoint, but I do have a couple cool theories, is Katarina, the Shacklebound. This is going to be the most speculative out of all of them because we don't really know much about Katarina. She's got a funny personality, and she definitely stands out as being more of a free spirit and somebody that just does what she wants. Obviously, she was pitted against the Preservation, but if she's a rogue member of the Preservation, then who exactly would she be? I think it's a couple obvious options. We know that the IPC is a faction that wants to control the universe, monopolize the entirety of the trade systems, the economy, have control over every little planet they can make a profit off of. They're like the big bad government of the Honkai Star Rail universe. The 10 Stonehearts and Diamond being the forefront that we've seen in the story. They're the most relevant to what we're actually doing with each chapter and each story. Sad circumstances as to why they joined the IPC. Topaz's planet was on the brink and had no choice but to get the help of the IPC. Aventurine was a slave, and Jade says that she has a pretty sad story in her own right. The IPC uses control and leverage to coerce people and suffering planets. That's their whole shtick. They want to control the universe and preserve it in their own way. So Katarina is probably more than likely an ex-prisoner of the IPC that was able to break away and escape, like an inmate that had a jailbreak. But is she just a random convict that got away from the IPC's control? Because even someone like Aventurine, who has a barcode on his neck and is a slave, can't just get away, even if he is a Stoneheart and one of the most powerful individuals in the IPC. So how on earth would Katarina get away? That's the question. It would seem more than likely that she's an ex-IPC employee that turned rogue, probably got arrested, and was either going to be executed like Aventurine was originally, or was thrown in jail, or is in prison somewhere. We know the IPC has a lot of prison planets. Penacony used to be one of them, so Katarina got away. But you know what I think would be even cooler? Because we know the Stonehearts and Diamond are the most important faction of the IPC so far. They're the ones we see the most, they have their cornerstones, and Diamond's an emanator of preservation. What if Katarina was an ex-Stoneheart? Now I know what you're thinking before you even have to say it, but all the Stonehearts are named after minerals or rocks. Aventurine, Topaz, Diamond, Jade, Opal, and this might seem like a bit of a stretch, but Katarina Venado is actually a type of natural stone that is commonly used for kitchen countertops, backsplashes, and flooring. So technically, it is very much a stone, but it's sort of an underwhelming stone in comparison to the other fancy jewels that they're named after, and that could be just a funny Easter egg reference to Katarina being ostracized from the IPC or the Stonehearts, if that were to be the case, which is sort of similar to the constants of Dahlia, the Black Dahlia being uncommon but resembles betrayal and distrust or dishonesty. Again, this is just a theory, but I think Katarina being an ex-Stoneheart, and maybe like Aventurine, who was maybe sentenced to death, a slave, or a prisoner within the IPC forced to be a Stoneheart. Maybe she bucked and was the first to actually get away from Diamond. Maybe she was a prisoner who was escaped and is now called Katarina the Shacklebound, which would actually fit the theme and explain why she's a rogue member of not only the Stonehearts but the whole IPC in general. She is a rogue member of the Preservation. Maybe this is out in left field, but again, this is just a possible theory and she's definitely the hardest one to pinpoint, but it makes sense to me. Now, let's talk about the one that actually orchestrated them all together. Duke Inferno, also known as Ifrit, who considers himself a conductor of destruction, hence his design. Nanook destroyed a white star named Fitoria. The flames of this white star are what gave birth to a bunch of plasmic life forms, and Duke Inferno would be one of them, the demon Ifrit. And the flames of this destruction would also forge the crown that he wore on his head. This might be a very odd observation, but Nanook destroyed a white star. Ironically, this means destruction gave birth to life. Sort of a blissful take. And Ifrit's sort of like Nanook's child in a way. They are the reason that they are alive. So the more you think about it, Ifrit's undying loyalty to destruction and Nanook makes more sense when you view it like that. But the sad part is, throughout his entire lifespan, Nanook never even gave the Annihilation Gang or the Everflame Mansion a second look. Couldn't care less. So it's pretty sad that Ifrit never even got to gain his approval in any capacity, but was always a loyal servant to the destruction. As we know, Ifrit would be invited to Penacony by Gallagher, along with many other factions to try to jeopardize the family's plans with Enna's dream, but Acheron would need to get to Penacony, so she would slay Duke Inferno, take his invitation, and go herself. And that is where we are left with the Annihilation Gang and the Everflame Mansion. Ifrit's 4 children, doing God knows what right now, have all split up and gone their separate ways, but make no mistake, Hoyoverse knows exactly how popular and how loved these characters are right from their release, and they would not spend the time and energy to make this really cool trailer introducing these characters just to do absolutely nothing with them. Looking back at it now, it makes complete sense why they took this route. Duke Inferno was only ever introduced to set up his 4 children. That was his purpose in the game's story. And as for his 4 children, we haven't really met any predominant members of these rogue factions yet, so it makes sense that they would be the first ones we meet. the cremators, the mourning actors, the other family members we don't know of, and ex-employees of the preservation aren't characters we've really had much run-ins with at all, so it makes a lot of sense to me. But with that said, I do hope you enjoyed this video. Please let me know your thoughts in the comments. Where do you think they will pop up next in the story, and do you agree with this video, or do you have your own take on who his children actually are? Like and subscribe if you'd like to see more content like this, and as always, we will see you all in the next one. Later.